Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick. This is my daily ramble. It's international break time, so there's no football to discuss as such. There's no transfers. There's nothing like that. But it has been some controversy in the Premier League this week, and there is some West Ham news as well, which we're going to touch on. The stories I'm going to talk to you about at the start are going to feed into the stories, the West Ham related stories that we talk about at the end of this show. As always, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and drop a like on the video, because it does really help us. So, look, we're going to start off with the big news in the Premier League at the moment, which is Nottingham Forest being docked 4 points for being in breach of FFP regulations. At this stage in the season, it's an absolute fucking joke. It stinks, not to mention the fact that it doesn't tally up with the other punishment that's already been handed out this season to Everton. First of all, 10 points for Everton. Then they contested it. Then it got reduced to 6. Now, Nottingham Forest, we're talking about virtually the exact same thing, and they've got 4 points. So where's the sense in this? How are they scoring this? Where are they coming up with these punishments? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And how can they do this? How can they focus on the smaller clubs first when you've got... Listen, I'm going to say it now. Man City, I've got no problem with the fans or anything like that, because this is ultimately, it hurts the fans. So when you've got club owners running things badly, it's the fans that pay the price. But Man City, for 10 years, have been taking the piss out of FFP. They've been ignoring it. So for 10 years, they've been breaching FFP. They've got 132 cases against them. So they've built their team. They've won all of these titles, all of these trophies, all through breaking FFP. So if you're looking at it along those lines, they've cheated their way to everything, and they're being allowed to keep doing that. Chelsea keep on spending too much money. They do. Now, we know that they're on the FFP watch list, but what is being done? What's being done with them? So why are they, rather than focusing their efforts on Man City and Chelsea, why are they picking on Nottingham Forest, who have only been in the Premier League for a few years, and they're spending money just so that they can try and keep their heads above water? And Everton, why are they doing that? It makes no sense at all. Well, it does make sense, and that's why it stinks, because they're doing this to maintain the status quo. FFP was supposed to be brought in to protect clubs, to stop clubs overspending. That was what they said. It's got nothing to do with it. This is just an opportunity for them to ring fence the big clubs. That's all they've done, and keep the big clubs big. That's all it is. Even if you look at the likes of Newcastle now, who have got superpower owners, they could and should be the richest club in the league. They can't spend their money. They're not allowed. They can't do it. In fact, they're also at risk of being in breach of FFP to the point where they're not going to be able to spend next season. You know, they're probably going to have to sell players. So I'm sure if the Saudis knew that when they were buying into Newcastle, they probably wouldn't have bought them. Aston Villa, look at the season that they are having. They haven't really sort of taken the piss with the way they've spent money. They've spent money sort of almost in line with West Ham. Maybe a little bit more, but not too much. And they're having a brilliant season. They're competing in the Conference League. They're in the quarterfinals. They're fourth in the Premier League. They're really rocking the boat. But it looks as though, like with Newcastle, they're on the verge of being in breach of FFP to the point where they will not be able to build on this success in the summer. In fact, the likelihood is they're going to have to sell players or sell a player to balance the books, which is going to slam the brakes on their progress next season and stop them from getting ahead of themselves, because that's what this is all about. I'm going to keep on saying it. And I do think it's ridiculous and it's short-sighted from the Premier League. It's unfair in so many ways. So when you look at Nottingham Forest and you look at Everton, it's so wrong. Nottingham Forest in particular, I mean, 4 points, they survived by 4 points last season. That 4 points, that could kill them. That could relegate them. You know, it is not fair. It's not. I know people are going to say, oh, well, they should operate within the rules. They should do this and they should do that. Look, it's difficult, I think, when clubs come up from the Premier League. It's a completely different... You look at Norwich. Look how Norwich, you know, those seasons where they've pissed the Championship and they've come up and gone straight back down with a whimper. That is what the Premier League are enforcing. They're saying when you do get promoted, Leeds, Leicester, whoever it is, don't go spending too much. Oh, no. You know your place. You're in the Premier League now. You're going to have to just pray for a miracle that you're going to stay up there. And how can you? How can you compete? The Premier League, Look at West Ham, the amount of money that we're able to spend now. You know, I know we're not sort of competing at the top, but these teams that are just coming into the league, it's so difficult for them to kind of get to a stage where it's a level playing field. It really is not fair. FFP should be a mechanism where it facilitates that. It allows clubs to spend responsibly, but also be ambitious. You can't remove ambition, because if you remove ambition, this is what the Premier League are doing by being greedy and satisfying the greedy bastards in the league who have got the ump with the likes of Aston Villa, who are in somebody's fourth place. They shouldn't be in there. That should be us. Well, rather than satisfying them, they're going to ruin. Like I said, they're being short-sighted. They're going to ruin the Premier League overall. We're going to eat ourselves. You're looking at the likes of the Saudis that came in and brought all that money into Newcastle. That type of investment will stop. It will stop. It's going to happen. You know, that sort of dream that the clubs have got where, you know, the big multi-billionaire investor is going to come in and pump all this money in and turn us into a superpower. That will never happen again. That will have all stopped with Man City. You'll never see it again. You know, the Saudis, if it goes on like this, and the Saudis will probably bin off Newcastle. They'll probably sell them and go and buy it in another country where they're allowed to sort of operate within their means. And their means, it's a bottomless pit of money. It must be killing them, you know. Talk about having money that's burning a hole in your pocket. So it is completely ridiculous what the Premier League are doing. The brand, the Premier League brand, is the best. It's the best league in the world. And the reason for that is because we've got the best managers, we've got the best players, and it's the most competitive. You don't want a division where you've only got 2, 3 or 4 teams that are good and the rest are shit. With all due respect, if you look at Germany, right, the German league. Now, Freiburg, who we played the other week, they're all right, but they're not great. I swear they'd get relegated from the Premier League. They're worse than Burnley. They are. But they're a good, solid German mid-table team, top to mid-table team. And that's because all you've got in Germany is 2, 3 or 4 good teams and the rest is shit. You're looking at like the SPL with Celtic and Rangers, the same sort of thing. The French League, same sort of thing. The Premier League's different. Anyone can beat anyone. That's what makes it special. But it looks like the Premier League are trying to stop that from happening. And it's all to do with, you know, European qualification, wanting the big commercial brands, which is what these are now. They're not football clubs. They're brands, wanting them representing their countries in the European competitions. So they've got to kind of try and manufacture who finishes top of the fucking league. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. And this goes into our next story about West Ham. So as we know, look, the club has always been kind of up for sale. Every club is up for sale. And we know that we've got keen investors, people that are keen to buy the club still, even at this stage. But the issue that we've now got is that both Kretinsky and Sullivan have decided that they're not sure if they want to sell. They don't want to. We know that we've got Sullivan, who's got a 38% stake in the club, or 38.1. I don't know the exact percentages. Kretinsky's got around about 27, 28. And then you've got Trip Smith, who's in there with about 8%, 10%, and you got the Golds in there as well. And the Golds have tried to sell a portion of their shares, which equates to around about 10% of the club. But they've struggled to find a buyer. They've employed Rothschilds to go out and find an investor because they need more money to pump into the club to keep us progressing. Why, I don't know. I thought Kretinsky was a multi-billionaire. Sullivan's supposed to be as well. So is Trip Smith. Why have we got to keep on having different fucking investors coming in, pumping new money in? It doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what we're looking at now. So they've struggled to find someone to buy that low percentage. Basically, somebody to come in, sit in the boardroom, but have no power at all. There's no appetite for that, apparently. Well, I'm not surprised. So what Kretinsky and Sullivan have decided to do is hammer their own shares down to 25% apiece, so that collectively Rothschilds can go out and sell 25% of West Ham. So whoever buys them can come in and be an equal shareholder with Kretinsky and with David Sullivan. But with David Sullivan knowing, yeah, but I've got the Golds there for that extra 13%. If ever I'm in a bit of a pickle, I can rely on them. They'll sort me out. So that looks like that's where that is where we are. Whether or not they're going to be able to sell that 25%, I do not know. Like I said, there are there are buyers that are interested in buying the entire entity. That's the reason why this Rothschild's exercise has been done in the first place, is to establish the actual value of West Ham shares so that we know what we can sell it for. But it does appear that Sullivan and now Kretinsky want to retain some sort of financial interest in West Ham. And in Sullivan's case, it's going to be a controlling interest. He doesn't want to let go of the reins, the little bastard. He won't do it. He doesn't seem to want to. Might be the case where if we can't find an investor to come in and just pump more money in for Sullivan to spend, maybe they will have to they will have to sell it in its entirety. I don't know. Certainly for me, if I was going to be spending that sort of money, 25% of West Ham's huge. You know, you're talking hundreds of millions to buy that portion of West Ham. I would want a controlling stake. I would want to know where my money is going and how it's being spent. And whereas you can argue the club is run well financially, when you look at the likes of Everton and Forest, we're never at risk of breaching FFP. In that respect, it's run well, but in every other respect, from a football perspective, they make it up as they go along. They do. We've got another mass rebuild coming this season, and that's all going to be reliant on selling a player. The rebuild's going to be reliant on someone like Paqueta going for big money. You know, that's you know, the big money we've spent in the last few years. It's all been knowing that we're going to be selling Declan Rice soon. So I don't know. I think they're going to struggle to find an investor. I do. To buy 25%. I think they're going to struggle. So it's going to be interesting. I just think maybe the days of like the Saudi takeover of Newcastle, maybe those days are gone. Maybe the Premier League have stopped that now. Maybe they have. They've scared them all away. They could well have. But anyway, look, that's it from me. A very quick show. We will be back later in the week. We're going to do the Sunday night show. We're going to do a couple of live shows as well. You know, a Boozecast where we take WhatsApp voice notes from you guys. We play them and then we talk about whatever it is that you want us to talk about. We'll probably do a live phone-in show as well. And we'll do rambles and stuff like that as and when news does pop up. But let me know what your thoughts are on those topics anyway. Do you think it's fair what's happening to Nottingham Forest and Everton? Do you think it's fair the way that the league are doing this? I think it fucking stinks. I think it does. But anyway, look, I shall let you go and I'll speak to you in a week. All right? Speak to you soon. Get you right.